We're going to move on now to our features of this week. And if you follow us on this show, or if you read our daily newsletter, if you visit our website at www.qualitydigest.com, you know that we cover enterprise quality management software, or EQMS, on a regular basis. That's because EQMS is a powerful solution to the complex problems facing any quality-centric organization. So whether it's supplier management, corrective and preventive action, document control, or dozens of other functions, a good EQMS system is going to allow quality to flow across the entire enterprise, even one that has locations in different continents across the globe. Our first guest today has a great high-level perspective on EQMS. As an analyst at LNS Research, he has developed some interesting insights into what makes a successful EQMS system. His latest article, 4 Steps to Get Your EQMS Implementation Right from Day One, appeared in Tuesday's issue of Quality Digest Daily, and it delves into that very topic. So, without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Rob Harrison to the show. Rob, thank you for joining us.
Hello, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, thanks for being here. And as I mentioned, we certainly cover EQMS often here at Quality Digest. We know it's important for the industry, for our readers. So let's kind of jump into it. And maybe you can start by giving us a little bit of background on your company, on LNS Research. What exactly does LNS Research do, and how do you guys fit into the EQMS world?
Sure. So LNS is a technology research firm, and we help clients innovate and ultimately achieve operational excellence. So we have a group of experienced analysts across multiple practices. Actually, they include asset performance management, manufacturing operations management, environment, health, safety, and sustainability, quality management, of course, and also the industrial Internet of Things. So a broad and varied collection of practices there, but with a lot of interrelations there that, of course, allow us to give the bigger picture and also spend time identifying what's coming over the horizons for our stakeholders. We conduct a lot of primary research, and that's based on our social research model. We have a multi-year survey, which approaching 2,000 quality executives have responded to. We have deep industry contacts where we work with our global executive council, approaching 50 execs on that represent organizations, many brands of which you'd be very familiar with. We take all of that, of course, and that information. We provide very rich interactive data visualizations for organizations to then go in and interrogate the data that we capture.
So that's a really good overview, and I think it leads to this question. You do this work, and you talk to all these users, and that's an impressive amount of people in this space. So I'm sure you find a lot of commonalities in those respondents. So what do you hear frequently regarding pain points in EQMS implementation?
Well, that's a very good question. Actually, the answer is consistently we see fragmentation, we see disconnected tools and data across organizations. Of course, the larger, the broader the organization, the more disruptive events that they've experienced, large mergers, acquisitions, etc. Those kind of things really get in the way of a fluid approach to quality management. But we also experience organizations, some are quite surprising given their stature as organizations, that have limited formal processes that stretch across a single facility to multiple facilities and roll up the entire organization, for example. Significant issues with lack of visibility into supplier quality, and many issues actually that stretch across the value chain from suppliers right the way out through to sales and field and warranty management, for example. So many common issues, and it's actually very consistent.
Mm-hmm. Well, in your article, you address 4 specific things that users have to do to properly implement their EQMS system. So if you don't mind, maybe you can take a few moments and maybe quickly run through those 4 very important points for us.
Absolutely, and from the highest level, really what we're talking about is scoping the project. From the very outset, the project charter really is a defining document that serves many purposes. We do go into that in some depth, of course, building a cross-functional team to ensure that you get the appropriate perspectives, subject matter expertise, the strategic as well as tactical views, and that includes, top floor to shop floor representation. And we talk a lot in detail, some very specific points with regards to the cross-functional team. IT, as you'd expect with an enterprise deployment of this nature, play a very important part, but they're analogous really to the organization, or you or I buying a house, for example. IT are our building inspector. They don't necessarily deal with the everyday, decisions we might make around, taste and how we might use space, but we absolutely want to know that the foundations are solid. Additional utilities can be brought in, and that's synonymous with integration for EQMS with other platforms, all the way through to finance and ensuring that supplier chargebacks can be appropriately managed. We're talking about closing the loop across the value chain with regards to the approach to quality management. So that's a very important point. Requirements, the third point, of course, very important to get your requirements right, but you can go too deep, not quite deep enough, and the way that they're presented needs to be done in a very consistent manner. Quality leaders don't go through the selection of EQMS on a regular basis. This is something they might do 1, 2, or 3 times in an entire career. This is a long-term investment, so we have to get it right out of the gate. That's very important, of course. And then the way that demonstrations are conducted. Vendors are very sophisticated, and they have innovated and have very sophisticated tools out there. But what you want to know is that the way that you approach your processes is accommodated appropriately, and that there's appropriate configuration and freedom to expand beyond that and not have to be shoehorned into a particular way of working, for example. Many facets, and we're really focusing with this research on getting selection right, because as one exec in a $5 billion CPG company articulated the other day, the tool's the glue that holds all of this together. There are other elements like culture, but getting the tool right is something that you would pay a very high price for in the long term if indeed you make mistakes.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Touching back on what you just mentioned, at the end of the article you said that the 4 steps you just reviewed for us, they tend to interrelate and overlap. So how does this play out? And again, you touched on this a little bit, but for example, how does scoping the project affect the selection of the team members who are going to be helping you hammer out those requirements?
Again, this is back to subject matter expertise and also perception, but it does go a bit further than that. So we want representation from our quality engineers. We want representation from finance. We want to view every single perspective. Now, it doesn't mean that we're absolutely going to accommodate every single nuance across every single region, every individual facility. We're still trying to harmonize a process, but we need those perspectives to make the right decisions. But it also goes beyond that. The interrelation goes all the way into these individuals being our evangelists. They're fully informed, back to the project charter. They know exactly why we're doing this. They know that it underpins, some cultural transformation as well. Fundamentally, these people are going to take the word out to the field, let everyone know what's coming. They're also responsible for some elements of organizational readiness, and then they'll be the champions and perhaps even first-line support going forward. So the interrelated nature of scoping, being involved in scoping, and then, of course, seeing that all the way through to what effectively could be a multi-year journey is very important to get right. And being connected and knowing and good communication across that is very, very important.
No doubt. Well, Rob, you're very well spoken on this topic, and thank you for giving us a really great overview on the do's and don'ts of EQMS implementation. I, of course, want to remind everyone that you and our very own Director Sharm, you're going to be presenting a free webinar on this topic titled EQMS Solution Selection Best Practices for Global Enterprises. People can see it on the screen right there. The webinar happens this coming Tuesday, July 14th at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. So, Rob, I guess we're going to see you on Tuesday for a lot more on this very important and timely topic. So thanks for joining us here today.
It's my pleasure. I look forward to it. Thank you, Mike.
Great. Thank you, Rob. And for all of you who want to register for that event, it's going to be a good one. Again, Rob's going to host it. Director Sharm's going to host it. Rob's going to present on this topic. And if you want to check it out, again, in Rob's article, again, right below the video player screen, we have all the articles we've covered on today's show. Right below the video player screen right there is Rob's article. You can click out to that article, and then in the article is a link where you can register for the webinar. Also, keep an eye on your inbox, your email inbox. We're going to be sending out a reminder about this as well early part of next week. So check that out and make sure if you have anything to do with EQMS, make sure you check out that webinar next Tuesday.